Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're going to do our update on natural gas today. It's February 22nd, 2023, and we had a little bounce today. This is our daily chart of natural gas, but we can see we did get a pullback on a lower time frame. So we're going to zoom into those lower time frames actually to take a look at that in more detail, because we did get a reversal on the hourly chart, and so they're important levels, and we'll look at those same levels on BOIL and UNG. So just a reminder, always take a look at the pin tweet. If you're new, welcome. That'll give you some background on cycles, price action in general, swing lows, swing highs. And right now we're waiting for a swing low. We've been declining for all this time, and so we're waiting for a swing low. This was a swing low on day 40. It has failed, meaning we're now below that low, obviously. And if anything, does that look like a coincidence to you folks? Wow. We basically retested the bottom end of that range. So what happens over the next few days is going to be of critical importance, because the bearish interpretation of this is that this was a back test, right? So essentially another way of thinking about that is there's another lower high. We don't try to predict price moves on this channel. That's not necessary. We observe price. So we did this, and you could call this a little lower, higher low. I mean, it did make a little. It was a tiny rally, and now we've spilled over. And so, if this was going to be bearish, at some point we would check back, and it doesn't have to be right here. But the idea that we're doing it right at that former low is telling. Now, again, we don't have to predict. That's gambling. We can just watch and see what happens, especially as natural gas opens later tonight. The market is closed right now. But again, the bearish interpretation here, not so good, right? And just keep in mind, just in terms of like the finer points, the details, this is your range. So this candle is now a doji. So next candle, tomorrow's candle, likely to open inside maybe something like that. Obviously, we're going to trade overnight, so a lot could happen. But this gives us a big inside candle for tomorrow. And which way does she break? And what I will say is, if we start pressing up against this level again, then it increases the likelihood we're going to break through. Because then you could say this is the first test, right? You could argue you're generally not going to be successful getting back above a level on the first pass. So reasonable to think it might take a few levels. This is the hourly version of that. Let me get rid of this candle. Wow, that's intimidating. Like you can see, as I said, reversal on the hourly candle. So we had this candle that came at noon on the dot. And of course, we had the release of the Fed minutes today, which happened at 2 o'clock. So the rest of the market reacted somewhat, although it really was a doji candle. But you can see that 12 o'clock candle made a new high and then pulled back. This upper wick means it's a pullback on a lower time frame. So if we zoom down to like a 5-minute chart, for instance, we could see that, right? Like we have this big bearish red candle on the 5-minute chart. Lower low next candle, little consolidation, lower high, lower low, another lower high, and then we get the real little waterfall move. But since that waterfall move, we're now just consolidating here. Now, is this like that consolidation that happened on the daily chart? There's no way to know for sure which way consolidation is going to break, but you can think about the odds, right? Like, do we do something like that, and then that gives us our next leg lower? And of course, this is a 5-minute chart, so we're not even talking about a ton of downside. Even this kind of move would still have you right above $2. And so now we watch. It wasn't a great close. It looked like it was great. It was good at first. If you look at the hourly chart, I mean, this is a nice move. And so far, this is still okay on the hourly chart. Now, very, very clear level. I'll pause for a second because I hope that you can see what the level is, right? The clear risk level. It's like blaring, right? Right there, right? Once you're below this cluster of lows, it's game over. And what I mean by that is you've increased the odds that you're about to start a downtrend. And that's always not good. Right, so you increase the odds that you're going to do something like this, maybe a little back test, poke above, and then a move lower. Right, that's what doesn't mean that has to happen, but if you're playing the odds, so that is going to be important. Call it 2 spot 114, and we're pretty close to that right now. And what does the 8-hour chart look like, actually? Because that had actually controlled the action for quite a bit. Yeah, so you have your big upper wick. But what we'd really be looking for, your big blinking red light that something is wrong. So this 8-hour candle is about to close in about 44 minutes, which means when natural gas opens for tonight, the Wednesday night candle, which is going to become the Thursday, daily candle, we need to stay above this low, the low of this candle. Because if we don't, this is your 8-hour chart, that gives you an 8-hour, a swing low on the 8-hour chart. And obviously, we actually, so to be clear, I should, let's just be crystal clear here. We do have a swing high. Excuse me, I said swing low, I meant swing high. So this is your swing high. So we do have a swing high on the hourly chart. So as we stay below 2 spot 19, we have a swing high on the hourly chart. The thing is that a swing high on the hourly chart isn't the end of the world. It gets really bad when it cascades to the higher time frames. Like the 8-hour chart is your first sign that you might get one on the daily, that you might get a swing high on the daily. So, because basically this could recover, right? So again, we need to get back above, approximately 2 spot 19. And if we look at the daily chart, just to think about where we close, again, we talked about this idea that it's a, doji candle, so probably going to be an inside day tomorrow. We need to get above 2 spot 302 to have a swing low, for this to be a swing low. And this potentially becomes a daily cycle low on day 51. Or it's day 11 of a new daily cycle if we continue to roll over. That's what you're going to want to kind of watch for in terms of scenarios. But more importantly, you're looking at the trend. Is it going lower? And right now, we're going to have a consolidation on the daily chart. So kind of so the way I would think about it more specifically is, and this is important, right? If you think about like the details matter. We clearly have started a little uptrend on the hourly chart. Or actually, let's zoom down to the 5-minute chart. So we clearly have an uptrend on the 5-minute chart. No doubt about that, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. This is now starting to be threatened, this higher low. And this level, which coincides with the hourly candle, I imagine, is the next level that needs to be defended. Or this 5-minute chart, this 5-minute uptrend is kaput. It's over, right? And so that 5-minute uptrend is giving us something of an emerging uptrend on the 15-minute chart, right? That's a clear uptrend, higher low, again, being threatened. Hourly, you can argue we are starting to break down because we have a swing high, but we haven't yet. The 8-hour chart, so far, this is just a higher high above here, but it couldn't even hold. And so we have a lot of work to do, obviously. And again, this move here is what caused your sort of big doji candle on the daily, obviously. And if you think about, I think looking at the weekly chart really tells you how significant a move is. We've got to at least go back green on the weekly to get excited, right? So that's 2 spot 302. And we were there today. We just couldn't hold it, obviously. And the bullish scenario would be that we make a higher high above this candle here. So that's 2 spot 623. So that gives you a bit of an upside target if price can kind of get its mojo back. And that is a 23% move. And that would just be giving you a swing low on the weekly. So just a start, potentially, of a move. So that is really interesting. Though I will remind, this kind of crazy downtrend generally doesn't, what you generally don't see is, a V reversal. If nothing else, this is probably going to languish for a little bit longer. So I wouldn't expect a sort of rocket ship up. And we'll obviously look at Boyle and UNG because that's what a lot of people are playing, and we'll see what those levels are. And again, the monthly chart is going to close. The monthly candle is going to close pretty soon. And so highly unlikely we're going to be able to get anywhere near to making this green. We'd have to get to 2 spot 73. And more importantly, we can expect best case scenario, absolute best case scenario is an inside candle for March to start. Obviously, it doesn't tell us where we'll close. But notice the more wick that we build here, the more likely it is that the March candle is going to be an inside candle, at least to start. Notice, this is important to notice, the January candle did not even open inside. It opened as a lower low and then like literally never looked back. This actually opened, the February candle actually opened as an inside candle. But look how far, like look how low in the range it was. And so that's what you want to try to avoid if there's really kind of any hope. But again, as I've said in previous videos, March is definitely a seasonal period where UNG, like in terms of you look at the seasonal chart, is the month where you're most likely to get gains for UNG. So that's going to be interesting to watch. And again, still very much on the table as we look at the monthly chart is this 180 area. And depending on how we react there, maybe it takes a trip to 140. I know that sounds unthinkable, but very possible. Let's look at Boyle and UNG to get those levels. So, well, isn't that interesting, right? We tend to see this, right? So Boyle is actually green on the week, whereas nat gas is not. And notice on the daily chart, Boyle, so I should say also, going back to natural gas, that's an important pattern that we want to make sure that we're acknowledging and that everybody understands. The daily candle is a bullish outside candle for natural gas. Let's go to the daily candle. But again, massive upper wick, so not great, right? We just made a higher high. So the high today was 2.302, and the high yesterday was 2.295. So like 5 ticks. And so, but obviously it pulled way back after we made that high. So that's not exactly a bullish reaction, but this is still a bullish outside candle technically because it made a new low and now it's also made a new high. And so for Boyle, you don't have that same thing, and neither for UNG because it doesn't trade overnight. So you didn't get the lower low part. You just kind of got this move up at the beginning. And again, you can see for Boyle, massive upper wick, but it does close as a swing low. That's important. We have a swing low for Boyle. That doesn't, I mean, this was a swing low, obviously, and then we had a day of follow through, and then that was pretty much kaput. And so now we want to ask ourselves, can we get another day of follow through? Can we get a second day of follow through, which is to say a 3-day rally? Because we haven't had more than a 2-day rally. This was another, well, that's not really, I mean, 2 green days in a row. This was a little 2-day rally. That's literally all this has been able to muster. 2-day rallies, literally. So that tells you maybe we do get a little bit of continuation, but the real test is going to be, can we string together a 3rd day in a row? And of course, closing above the 10-day moving average is something that we would expect at some point. Notice we did that here, but obviously that didn't end well. And so this thing could very easily be making new all-time lows again, you know, potentially even this week. I would not be surprised. And if we think about the weekly levels, that weekly high from last week is 664. So if we were to get the bullish scenario, that's a 36% move, 39% move, something in that neighborhood. So that's pretty nice actually. Because and again, that even if that we got that, it doesn't mean that we have our long-term bottom. That could still end up being a lower high in this trend leg down on the weekly chart. Knowing that we only have 2 days to trade, will be interesting to see if this thing can close green. It could be another consolidation candle, kind of like this one within this downtrend. And let's look at UNG. Yeah, so same idea. So for UNG, also a swing low. Let's look at the hourly chart to see the reversal. So for UNG, you can see we had 3 hours up, and then we had this swing high. So this is just like natural gas. And so we have, like, this candle is what creates the swing high, makes a lower low below this candle. And it's, like, you know, pretty crystal clear. We got to hold above there, right? If we don't hold above there, this low is threatened, and that threatens new all-time lows again. So call it 750 for UNG. And for Boyle, we call it like 476. You can see it's the same exact structure. You have this big bearish candle, and then you have these 2 hourly candles of consolidation. The odds suggest this is a bear flag, right? Because you have this big move down, and now you're just consolidating at the lower end of the range. But of course, time will tell all. And that's Boyle. And let's take a peek at gold. Obviously, it had the reverse performance, and you can see how it closed on the daily, red, but a lower wick. And let's see the hourly reversal, right? So it was going down, 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 and then boom, we have a swing low. This thing forms a swing low. I mean, this looks like a bull flag. but you would want to be aware of below 71.94, call it below 72 bucks ish, in that neighborhood. This little reversal is in danger, because what you're forming here is obviously a little downtrend, like that is threatening to become a lower high and then do something like that. So we'll see. So those are the levels. We'll leave it at that. That's your update on natural gas. We tried to get a little bounce. Not a great close. Pretty big pullback. That upper wick setting up an inside day for tomorrow. But that means very clear levels for those that don't want to be emotional. Thanks for watching.